What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the LivBtr podcast. I'm your host, Jay Siano, CEO of Sabre Advisors. On today's podcast, we have my friend Ryan Tseko, the Executive Vice President of Cardone Capital. Ryan started out his career as an airline pilot and then ultimately connected with Grant Cardone to create Cardone Capital, and they have, to date, acquired over $3 billion in real estate and over $1.3 billion raised by crowdfunding. So I want you to hear all about Ryan's story and why it's so important to put yourself out there and pursue relationships with people that are doing big things. I hope you guys enjoy this episode with Ryan Tseko.
I just want to have peace. Pay for the bill, let them take my card, never see the receipt. Good health, we prize, but everybody around prosperity.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the LivBtr podcast. This is your host, Jay Siano, and this is the show for people trying to optimize every area of their life. Let's go.
I just want to have peace.
Guys, I have an amazing guest, a friend on the LivBtr podcast today, Ryan Tseko. Thank you for joining us today. What's going on?
Good to see you, man.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you in the flesh. I've been tracking you on social media. Last time we did the podcast, I think it was more about real estate. I'm excited this time to talk about, health and wellness or wherever you want to drive this thing to. But I'm excited, man. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think we have to start with who is Ryan Tseko, just for the audience, so we can get a little into your role today professionally and then how you got here. But I do want to talk a lot about mindset. We're going to other ship after this. Yep. I'm so pumped for that. But why don't you just give a little quick and dirty on who you are and what you do?
Yeah, and look, I think on the mindset piece too, like that's really that's what's built my being, my person, my character. Because from a very early age, my mindset was always like I've always had a great attitude. But I really do. It's fantastic. Yeah, and it's different.
Yeah.
But short story is, I actually, so I've always been into real estate. My uncle was a builder. I realized at the age of 18 years old, I didn't have any money. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I tried a bunch of different jobs, right? But I didn't find any jobs that I liked because they were all terrible jobs and they were starter jobs. But at the age of 17 years old, I started flying airplanes. And like any 17-year-old kid, it was like going into a candy store when you're actually hanging out with people who are flying airplanes. Because that's a whole nother mind shift, right? Like when you get on the airport and you're flying at 17 years old, you're like, how do I own one of those airplanes? Like, how do I get into the back, the front? Because at the time I wanted to be a pilot. And for the next 3 years, all I did was eat, sleep, and shit, aviation, flying. And I joined a puppy mill. That's what I call it. It's a school that all they do is they teach you how to fly.
Yeah. And
so every day I was flying. So at the age of 21 years old, I was in a perfect position to get hired into a regional airline, which was United Express. And that's what happened. I went and interviewed with a bunch of these individuals, like these airlines. I got hired on at one. I started flying, which is the youngest age of 21 years old. I got hired on as a commercial airline pilot, flying a $40 million jet at 21 years old. I was still wet behind the ears.
Yeah.
But
how many flight hours do you need to have in order to qualify?
Well, now you need 1,500. But at the time, I had like 850 hours. Which isn't a lot, but you're a co-captain,
right?
And when you're flying every day, you do get in the groove of flying. And I actually think that younger pilots tend to be really good, because when you get older and if you have the right experience, you become very mature and very great pilot. But younger pilots, they have the capacity, like when you teach them very young, they really pick it up quick, meaning, stick and rudder skills, communication skills. Like when you're young, you just have the capacity to just absorb a lot of really good stuff. So at the age of 21 years old, I started flying for an airline, and I ran that career very, very hard. Like all I wanted to do, and people will get this like through the podcast, like I'm all or nothing.
Yeah.
But I ran that career very, very hard. I was a co-captain at 21. I was a captain at 23 years old. I became a part of the training department, and I had a lot of really, really good mentors, like great mentors, probably the best mentors in the world through aviation. People who like were older, 15 and 20 years older, had 20, 30,000 hours. Because that's what I was always looking.
How did you find them? Were they?
I was looking for them.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I was looking for them.
Proactive.
Yeah, because you and me are very much alike. Like I've been. My uncle told me when I was 18 years old, he's like, Ryan, you got to build your body because people will respect you more. I didn't even know what that meant. I was like, why wouldn't they respect me just, as I am? And he's like, Ryan, when you walk in with good posture, when you walk in looking good, talking good, speaking good, and being of influence, people just are attracted to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I want that. And he's like, good. If you start early, then you'll actually, and I just turned 40 yesterday.
Yes. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. And people are like, if my girlfriend was 40, she'd be depressed. For me, I'm not. I'm actually the opposite. I'm excited because all the stuff that I've been stacking in the mindset that I've been stacking, I know that my 40s are going to be the best 10 that I've had so far.
Oh, most definitely.
Because we've been grinding, for 20s, I was flying, for 30s.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I was 25 years old, started getting back into real estate. But 30 years old, I really, like from 25 to 30, I really had the shift, really of like, who am I going to get around to catapult me into what I really want to do, which is apartments, multifamily, real estate investing. That's actually when I found Grant Cardone on YouTube. And I've been with Grant now for 10 years.
That's amazing.
And it has been one of the best decisions that I've made at 30 because, look, I had a path and a choice that I had to make at 30 years old.
Yeah.
Am I going to go and do another 35 years, which was safe at United?
Sure.
And retire at 65 years old?
You could have made a good living, obviously.
Great living. Travel the world.
Right.
And it's not a bad life.
Yeah.
It's just not the number of life that I wanted to have, meaning I didn't want to be 70293 for the rest of my life.
Right.
I am an entrepreneur now, working for the biggest and best entrepreneur in the world, one of them for sure.
Yeah. And
at 30 years old, I made the decision to quit and move to the corporate side of aviation because I didn't just quit and say I'm gonna go do something new.
Yes.
What I said is I'm going to quit and go and use my skills, which have been in smaller real estate, but I had 21 units, but also my flying, which I had 10,000 hours in flying. And so I married the two together and I said, hey, Grant, I'll do the flying piece in my sleep. Like I could do that.
Well, let's slow down for a second. So you discover Grant on YouTube. And then how do you get in contact with him?
So I called his office, which was crazy, right? I was actually, looking back and thinking back, I was actually terrified to make the transition.
Yeah.
And when I called, there was a girl named Angela. It's crazy how you remember these stories, right? In detail. And so I was in Arizona and my girlfriend was thinking I was crazy because I was getting into a lot of this, entrepreneur stuff, right? Yeah. In webinars and, podcasts. And, back then I didn't have the experience that I do now, but it was really intriguing because I noticed a shift, right?
Yeah.
Of entrepreneurship. This is
like 2014-ish, 13, 14.
Yeah, 14. Yeah. But I was always, even when I was flying at work, I was always talking about real estate and entrepreneurship and businesses and, you and I were talking about growing and scaling businesses, right?
Yeah.
Like health and wellness. That to me was intriguing because as I was looking for a franchise model, right?
Yeah.
So when I was 25 years old, I was like, man, these franchise model is really cool because somebody's already created the box.
Yeah.
And if you can go and duplicate the box, because when I was 25, I was like, man, I'm investing in a 401k. This really isn't that great. Like even a blind person and a deaf person can clearly understand that you investing into a 401k, it's a 401 scam in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I don't even control the money.
Right.
So I was looking at these different businesses and I was like, man, how cool would it be to be a pilot, but to have real estate and to have franchises. And, I just realized that was the path that I was going to take. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't want to be the guy who was flying for the rest of my life.
It's great that you had something that you were passionate about, that you dove into head first, that you could always fall back on. But what's interesting is obviously the people that are around jets are very interesting. And obviously there's a lot of affluent people, especially once you get into private aviation. And you were aware of that, right?
Yeah.
Like it was a really something that you knew that you could get access to a whole different type of community, essentially.
Well, you got to think about it, right? The person who owns that jet, those jets are 10, 15, 20, 30 million bucks.
Yeah.
And so one of my goals actually when I was still flying at the airlines, and it still is, I wanted to surround myself with the biggest movers and shakers of the world. Isn't that funny? I like those goals in the mindset.
Of course.
Like how powerful that is. I used to write my goals, and I still do. I write my goals down in the morning and at night. But I used to write it down like I want to be around the top influencers in the world. Yeah. And here at 40 years old, like my friends and, Grant and everybody that I'm surrounded with.
You're there.
But now, just walking out of this other meeting, I was like, there's levels to this game. but also the levels, you don't skip. Gradients are really important, like whether you're reading it on a map as a pilot, going from elevation of 0, 10, 20, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000.
Yeah.
Business and life is the same way.
Yeah.
Like you just have to keep meeting that next person who's going to continue to elevate you. And that's what I like about what you're doing is like you're not doing this for you. You're doing this for a community of people who need to hear like, hey, most of us start on the bottom. Yeah. We're trying to work our way to the top. And the way we do that is by collaborating in true partnerships.
Definitely. And there's, to your point, chapters to it, right? Like, but you can't skip through chapters. You have to really, if you're trying to build something great, right, in a really tall building, you have to build that foundation.
Yeah.
And it takes aggressive patience, right? Like you have to have this long-term mindset where you're showing up every single day and you're getting as much out of that 24-hour period as you possibly can. But you have to stack, right? And I think you do a great job at that. Your resume and who you are today at 40 is really impressive.
Yeah, but I've had to use a lot of aggressive patience because I know where I'm going,
right?
And like even right now, that feeling of like, oh my God, like I can't wait. Like I can't wait to wake up and see it because I envision a lot of things. Like I think mindset has been really, really important for me. Before I was even flying the $40 million jet that I was talking about, it was on my wall.
Yeah.
Like I'm a visual person. Like I used to hang up these cool jets that I wanted to fly. And what was fascinating is like actually when I started flying the jet, it was one better than the one I used to hang up on my wall.
Awesome.
But it's like that visually seeing things. Same thing with Grant. Like I was like, man, who can I connect with that's already so far ahead of me where I can plug into the model, not as a number, but as a leader, as a partner, as an equity partner, as all of these things, right? And it's fascinating. I talk to a lot of young folks, obviously, and I want to help and I want to give back like you. And they're always thinking of the mindset of like they got to do it themselves. When in reality, you don't want to do it yourself because it's boring. You have to create and figure out everything yourself. And when you get around people who are thinking bigger and who have a balance sheet and who already have a start, you learn so much by actually being placed into the game a lot quicker. Because you spend a lot of your youth, you spend a lot of your years where you absorb a lot, trying to figure out how to do it yourself. When I joined Grant's team, I was doing like I went from a fourplex, which was $250,000. To doing a $20 million deal where the deposit, the first deposit was $250,000.
Yeah.
Talk about like
but it's the same game, right?
It's the same game.
Yeah.
It's the same game. But you have like unless I come to you and say, Jay, like help me figure out this $20 million deal.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm going to miss is confidence.
Right. Of course.
Because you have the confidence and I don't.
Right.
But when I'm with you and I'm like, Jay, you like this deal? You're like, I love it.
Yeah.
Hey Jay, there's a deposit for $250 million. Like your Grant, right?
Yep.
He's like, no, make the deposit. Here's the LOI. Sign it. Send it off. We're doing the deal.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of confidence as a young man.
Of course.
Where you're like empowered.
Yeah. Which is why I asked you about the mentorship thing because you realized that I didn't as much when I was younger. Yeah. I was very much the person who wanted to figure it out on my own, just too proud.
Right.
And then I realized that ultimately, if you surround yourself with people that are further along than you and you ask them for help, it just collapses time, which is everything.
Oh.
Right? But
it's everything.
But back to Grant, when you reached out to him, you had already done the work, on yourself. You like set yourself up for success where you were able to obviously give him some sort of confidence that bringing you onto the team was a good idea for him.
Yep.
So let's talk about that for a little. So you reach out to him, you speak to a woman in the office, and you say what?
Yeah, so her name was Angela, and I called her, and I told her, I was like, look, I want to come work for Grant Cardone. And she's like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm currently working for, United Express, and I fly a jet, I'm based out of Denver, and I've got apartments, and I want to come and join his team. And she's like, hold on, slow down. You're already successful flying in airplanes. You have a great career. You already have own real estate. She literally asked me, she's like, well, why would you want to come work for Grant Cardone? And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like the front desk person, which ended up not working there very much longer.
Right. Yeah.
It just goes to show you the people you hire are very important on recruiting, right? Because here I am, like I'm just cold calling Grant.
She's talking you out of it.
She's talking me out of the deal, and I'm like, I was like, do you not understand who you're with right now? And I actually watched the podcast where Grant was. It was called Power Players.
Yeah.
And he was with a guy named Bobby, who is still actually a friend today. He's big into the real estate. And Grant had said something. He says, you know what? The way to get around people and to like get around power is to get underneath the same roof. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what job post you do or what job you take. The most important thing is getting under the same roof. Like if I want to join your team, whatever opening is there, I'm taking it. Just get in. Just get in the same house. And I took his advice from that podcast. And I said, what openings do you guys have? It was a sales position. It wasn't a captain role. It wasn't a real estate role. It was a sales role where you're cold calling car dealerships for one of his companies that has,
it was a big part of his business.
Was sales and service and in calling. And I was terrible at it, by the way. I was a captain for an airline. I thought I was great in sales, but I wasn't. Right. Because it was just a different process. But I met Grant after a week.
And intimidating, too. If you're not used to it, anybody would be intimidated. Yeah.
Sweating.
But I think that practice right there develops resilience.
120 calls a day.
Banging phones.
And I was banging phones, but I was willing to do whatever it took to show Grant that I was willing to do whatever it took. Because, that slogan's great, but if you're unwilling to do that, now, would I do that for the rest of my life? No. But is there something that I can learn from that? The answer is yes, because now I have a team of investor relations where we raise money from folks to invest in real estate. Yep. And if I was unwilling to make those 100 phone calls, how can I actually walk into the office and say, you guys have to make 100 phone calls? Yeah. Which I do.
Right.
Because I'm willing to do it too.
Of course.
And
you can tell them how to do it because you've done it.
And I do. And I role play with them because I actually think it's good for me. Yeah. And I still make those phone calls today with the investors like Grant and myself. We're not disconnected from the business for sure. But again, that's always the mindset that I've had is it's like, hey, how do I get a part of something? Because I talked to Grant a week later. I'm like, hey, look, you don't know who I am. I can fly airplanes. I love real estate and I like helping people. And I knew he was aligned with all three of those. And he was like, well, can you even fly airplanes? And I'm like, yeah, I can. I've got 10,000 hours. Yeah. You're buying a Gulfstream G200. It would literally take me 4 weeks to get trained and qualified on your airplane. And I'll be back here because he was looking at the pilots at the time, right? And Elena was a huge help for me. Like she saw like Ryan and the vision and having me around, and so she was a great person for me because Grant, and again these high net worth guys and these high revving guys and these high drivers, they don't really stop and identify what you're strong at. It really takes other people around him saying, hey, look, Ryan can fly the airplane. Ryan can help in sales. And that's something that Grant wanted, right? He because his
the timing was amazing.
Timing was perfect.
Thank God she was advocating for you.
Oh, I tell Elaine all the time, like she is one of the main reasons why I am where I am today because she saw it in me before a lot of other people did. And that's what it takes sometimes, right?
Totally,
it takes people like your mother. Yeah. Who's like, I've got complete trust in you. I'm going to sign on the loan for you. Like, go and make something of yourself, right? She was like that for me. Yeah. Where she's like, Grant, you have a pilot into the room. Not only will he fly for you, but on the days off, when you're not flying, he will actually come and work in the office. Yeah. And he's like, no, he won't. This is crazy. Yeah. He'll last.
Pilots don't do that.
Most guys last doing that both 6 months. Yeah. 3 months. And they're like, no, I just want to fly.
Yeah, but you're built different.
For sure. For sure, I know, and I think it's pretty clear to see too.
100%. That's why we're homies.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because the attitude thing, right?
Well, it's such a similar story. Like for me, it was seeing people own shopping centers. Like I was just enamored by that. Just lost my mom to cancer.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, I just lost my dad 6 months ago, but this was like in my early 20s, and I was like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Right. And real estate was always interesting to me. Same thing. But I just wanted an opportunity. And I literally sat down in an interview and said, I'm going to be the best broker that you ever met to somebody really substantial. Yeah. And, he laughed and said, great. You have a job. I got a desk for you, but we're not paying you. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. I'm going to be the best. Right. And I showed up every fucking day to the point that one day I was the best. Yeah. And then I'm like, what's next? Right. Kind of like the the Grant Cardone moment for you, because in aviation, you were crushing it at such a young age.
Crushing it.
So it's like, okay, well, this is great. I know I could do this, but what's next? So I say that to say that I think so few people are really willing to bet on themselves and truly understand what it takes to be the best in that room. Right. And for somebody like yourself, come hell or fucking high water, you're going to figure that out. Right. Like failure is not an option. It's just, put me on a task, whether I like it or not. It's a means to an end. And I'm going to show the person who's making the decisions I'm the right person for the next role or whatever it is.
Because we both know that people are going to drop out.
100%.
And they're not going to come back. And they're not going to show up. And you're going to, like, I went through a bunch of pilots. Grant's like, no, you're the guy.
Yeah.
He's like, you keep showing up, you keep running this thing the right way, the correct way. I'm very frugal, like I'm very money focused.
Yeah.
Like
you better be in your position.
Yeah, of course. And
you got responsibility,
and you have to watch a lot of numbers, right?
Sure.
So even from a young age of managing the airplanes, it was all these skills have transferred into the $5 billion worth of real estate, which it's all the same. It's just scale.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, it's like, so many young people right now, they don't have any wins. Like you were just telling me that story, right? Of like you went in there, that actually created a big win for you.
Yeah. Like
when you're like, I'm going to be the best. You didn't even know the mechanics of like how to become the best.
I had no idea.
You're like, I'm going to call people because that opens the doors and the opportunities for you to make that next connection. But then that's a win, right? Because when you're like 3 years or 4 years down the road and you're like building all these wins,
you have to establish the confidence in yourself.
That's what it builds.
Yeah, of course. And if you can't do that, if you're not confident in yourself, nobody else is ever going to be confident in you.
How can they
But
be?
everyone wants to take the shortcut rather than build that confidence, which takes time. That's why, back to what you said earlier, you can't skip those steps. It's impossible. You can't be great and skip steps.
No. And you can't think you're going to win without small wins.
Correct.
Like everybody wants these big wins.
And losses.
Yeah. Well, for sure. But you got to have the wins though. Like I'm cool with the losses. Like I've had losses for sure. But the wins are really what have given me the confidence to be like, I'm gonna go win again.
Of course.
Because you had mentioned like in the aviation, what that really did for me, like it wasn't like I was making $100,000 or 120 or 130. That was big for me when I'm 23 and 24 years old. I'm like, if I could do this for the next 35 years, I could be a millionaire. But what happened was I was like, man, I've won so much. Where I'm like, why would I not go and win at a bigger level and be around these people who would actually appreciate me for like when Grant and I talk every day. Like I didn't talk to the president and CEO of the airline every single day. And that's what I wanted because I wanted to be the president and CEO of a company. But unless you're around that, then you're not going to get that experience.
Yeah.
That's why it's unique too. Like a lot of people think they're going to join JP Morgan today and they're going to get access to the CEO. No, actually what I was looking for was how do I go and grab a company that's growing where I could wear many hats and learn the business, cut your teeth, and not wear the dress shoes day one, but actually sweep the floors day one, wear the loafers day two, and then wear the dress shoes day three, because that's really where I found this edge of like willing to do anything and ask the question. One of my secrets too is I always ask, Jay, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, dude, that deal, fantastic. We just closed that deal. What's next?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I've gotten from Grant.
Yeah.
Is he's like, hey, what's next, man? We just closed a deal. We celebrating? Yeah. We celebrate? No. What's next, man?
Yeah.
What's next?
Relentless pursuit.
And that has become more normal for me because there's a lot of times to celebrate, but there's a lot of times to be like, man, we're on such a great mission right now. Like, what is next? Like, I don't drink.
Yeah.
I don't smoke.
Yeah.
I don't party.
Ever?
Ever.
Did you ever?
Yeah. I mean, when I was a teenager, we were drinking and smoking and doing all. But by the time I was 18 years old, I was like, man, I'm so hooked into success.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be around these mentors because, your first question was mentorship.
Yeah.
I've always been on a hunt. I've always been searching because, there's different quotes like, oh, your mentor will appear when you're, when you're looking for a mentor, it will appear, right? All that stuff is great. But you actually have to follow it up with action and be like, man, what mentor is right for me right now?
Yeah.
And how can I learn the max?
Yeah.
In the shortest amount of time and be clear. And that's really where not drinking and not smoking has helped me is because I'm always on, like I always want to be on.
You're always on. There's no downtime. You're firing on all cylinders.
I get bored.
24/7.
I get bored.
Likewise. Which is why we're going other ship after this, and other people are going to go have steak dinners with cocktails.
I did the bathhouse yesterday. We did this I guess like a meditation or whatever in the hot room.
Yeah.
It was probably 180 degrees.
Yeah.
And right after that, we did the 40-degree cold plunge. I was like, oh my God, you just feel that contrast therapy.
This one's 33, so get ready.
Nuts.
It is nuts. All right, so a lot of people are probably listening and they're like, Ryan, we get it. You've been a high performer, overachiever, and created opportunities for yourself and rose to the occasion. What are the things that for you were able to unlock to kind of propel you to the next stage of growth for yourself? Because for me, like, drinking is one of them, because I was a heavy drinker and I was successful along the way while drinking.
Right.
But when I stopped drinking entirely, it unlocked superpowers.
Right.
Another one would be just, my daily routine with cold, with hot, that stuff, working out, really wanting to be more like people that I admired and kind of incorporating those things into my life and basically becoming one of the people that I admired. Right. And I'm proud to say that.
Yeah.
I think everybody should be proud of their own growth. Right.
Yeah. Did you think you would be that person though? Or how did you vision, like, what is your method? Are you writing things out? Do you have like a vision board?
I'm very visual and I'm very creative. So I literally just think about what I want to be in 5, 3, 1 year from today. Right. And I do those things today. And ultimately I am that in 1, 3, and 5 years. Right. So I don't need to, I do, I spend time in thought and I do write things down, but not like, it's not a daily, non-negotiable for myself. Right. But I'm constantly thinking about and implementing, and I do it all for my family, ultimately, right? Because I need to be the best example I can be of a father.
How many kids do you have now?
Two boys, 9 and 12. So, and I think that's why I give you a tremendous amount of respect, because I didn't really have the discipline and I didn't unlock that next gear until I really had kids. Right. Like, that's when everything changed for me. Previous to that, I was very selfish. I was very, egotistical. If I had some success, I needed to show everybody that I had some success. It was all insecurity. Cars and watches. Everything. All the things, right? Which I think if you enjoy those things, that's great. And you should have them. Especially if you can afford them. Right. You're right. It's great to enjoy nice cars. Right. I love your R8. Yeah. I want one. Yeah. Maybe I'll get one. Yeah. But, all the toys. But if you got, as long as it's paid from cash flow. Correct. Then it's fine. But when it's like you're working for that car, that just a little bit of delayed gratification and actually investing. It's everything. But what unlocked, what things did you, because your growth is consistent. You go hard and you've always been, a go-getter and mindful of all the things you need to do in order to be where you are today at 40. Yeah. Are there little things along the way that kind of unlocked next levels for you? Were you always fit? Obviously it sounds like your uncle had a big impression on you early on. Yeah, I was skinny. I was actually 140 pounds, probably almost 6 foot tall in high school. Okay. Which was skinny. Yeah. And my uncle actually told me one day, he's like, Ryan, if you're going to be, whether it's the construction business which he was in, it was aggressive. My uncle was a very aggressive guy, especially when it came to work. Yeah. Like he would challenge people, right? And so from a very young age, I've always had to confront whether it's uncomfortable situations, but just like being as a person, I knew that I always wanted to be in shape. Yeah. I always wanted to be fit. So number one, people would, because he told me, he's like, Ryan, if you want to walk into a room and people were going to respect you, you need to present yourself. It's hair, it's clothes, it's your teeth, it's the way you dress, it's the way you walk, it's your posture. Yeah. And so I didn't realize realize how important that was. But he was always the guy who was like, hey, I'm going to feed you steak and potato because I need to put meat on your bones. You're going to go work out. You're not going to go with your brother and your sister and smoke weed and drink and do all that other stuff. So my uncle was a very, very because again, it goes back to these mentors, right? He was my mentor. He was my father figure. Yeah. And he really got me into, because remember when I got into aviation, it's like you shut up and you show up. And it was like the closest thing to the military. Yeah.
where I was able to get the discipline, because I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
Like people think like, oh, I could just do it by myself. You got to get around the right organization and the right thing that will get you, okay,
Holds you accountable.
Yeah, report time is 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You show up.
Yeah.
And you're showing up.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
And there's people that hold you accountable. So my first mentor was John Bell in the aviation space.
Okay.
He was a 30-year captain. And he's like, I don't know what it is about you, Ryan, but I see something in you. I had a tie that was like just fresh out of the box, you know. I still had the wrinkles in there, you know.
On.
Had my little clip on, you know. But he's like, I don't know what it is about you, but you know, bright eyes, bushy tail, you show up, you got a good smile, like I want to see you win. And so I don't know what it is, but he was always really big on attitude. He's like, I don't care about skill, but it's all about the attitude. If you got attitude, I could teach you. If you got the skill and you got a bad attitude, get the hell out of my,
So
you know,
true. True.
move on.
Yeah.
And so at 18 years old, when this is pounded into your head, boom, 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 every day. And I look up to these guys, right? I mean, these are my mentors.
You don't want to let them down.
Don't want to let them down. I still have his number on my phone today. But honestly, I can go back to many different things, but it is truly 100% the mentors.
Yeah.
It is the people who have put me in the places to get me excited about the game, whether it's flying airplanes or real estate deals. It has been them, because remember, when they put you in the game, now you have all these other people around you that hold you accountable.
Of course.
And you have to show up and you have to do it. Like I've never been a guy where I'm like, I want to do this on my own.
Yeah.
I'm always been like, okay, if I can cut out because remember, the drinking and the smoking, all that stuff, even when you cut that out, you still have to have a game.
Yeah.
And the game for me is like, I want to be in a much bigger game or around much bigger people. That's why it goes back to my goals, right? Like when people are listening, you should have a goal of, I want to be surrounded by X.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to be in the real estate game, I want to be surrounded by the top real estate broker. If you want to be in the multifamily, I want to be surrounded by the top multifamily broker.
Yeah.
If you want to be in the whatever space it is, like you got to get around those people, because you can cut everything out, but you still have a boring life. When you get around the right people, now your life becomes more exciting, and you can actually perform to a much greater level than you can ever even actually imagine. Because they're going to push you.
Do you think that Grant doesn't drink? Does he drink?
Rarely.
Like,
yeah. He's not a big drinker though.
Yeah, but it's just interesting because I think it's so popular now to not drink, right? Like, and wellness and overall, just being like, I mean, fitness today is almost more medical, in a sense. Like Gary Breck is a great example, right? Do you think
much more popular now?
It's way more popular.
Yeah.
Like it's not extreme.
It's not like your standard doctor. You go and check your health. It's like we're doing blood work,
everything.
You're doing red light beds. It's no longer
ozone. The list keeps going on.
It goes on and on.
Yeah,
and it's fantastic. By the way,
it is. And you have access to all that. I got to come visit you.
Yeah,
I need to come visit.
Yeah, 10X Health is.
I know. I want to check it out.
I mean, and the cool thing about it too is like we're doing this gene test now, where you do a gene test, it gives you a book of like 500 pages of, because I always knew, like, for example, I was lactose intolerant, right? Like I don't digest milk very good from a young age, but I never did a test.
Right.
And when I did the test, it's like, no, clearly you shouldn't be eating dairy.
Yeah.
But you should be eating da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
And you should be doing da-da-da-da-da. And your body processes this and you need this. And so what happens is you do this gene test, it's a couple $100, maybe it's $500. They give you a big book. And then it's this precision vitamin supplement where it sends you a pack. All you do is take this pack each day instead of, like I used to carry around the vitamins of like 4 or 5 or 6 different bottles.
You're just taking everything.
And I'm thinking, the B12 and this is good for me and this is good for me. This actually gives you the pack where it's like you rip off the thing.
Based on your DNA.
Based on your DNA. And it looks like
I need that.
Little pop rocks.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, like little balls. And you take it and that's your supplements for the day.
It makes so much sense, right? Because everybody's different. And meanwhile, everybody's doing the same thing.
Everybody's so different.
Yeah,
like the beeswax and the this and the this, like all this stuff pops up on me because they know I'm a health buff, and so I'm willing to try anything. 100%. But it's like most of this shit, it doesn't even work. Like I think I feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's some
placebo.
There's definitely some better ones out there.
Yeah,
but placebo I think is a real thing.
Me too, and I'm okay with it.
And I'm okay with it
if it makes you feel good, right?
If it makes you feel good, and it gets you that extra little edge. I'm all in.
Yeah.
Let's go to the cold plunge.
Because I don't know. Yeah, 100%. Well, that like for me, I get a way better workout after doing a cold plunge.
Oh, really?
Like, I have more energy.
Uh-huh.
Like I could go run like some mileage after a cold plunge, you know? Like if I'm at Barry's without a cold plunge, I'm getting it in. But if I cold plunge right before and I get to Barry's, man, like that treadmill doesn't stand a fucking chance.
Right.
I'm next level.
You know?
Like it's a real thing for me.
Yeah.
It's like a pre-workout, a natural pre-workout. So what's your daily routine like? What are the non-negotiables for you?
Well, it changes it's not the exact same. Like for the last week, I've been doing berries every single morning. Yeah. And, I
do you say that because of travel, like what you have access to, you mean?
Yeah. You know, travel and I don't have to do the same thing every single morning and be like, oh, I missed that or whatever.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
That would suck.
Yeah. So again, I'm very, I adjust quick. Like I'll do workouts in the morning, you know, like in Miami, I go to the office every single day. Right. Yeah. So I'll either do a workout in the morning or in the afternoon.
Is there a gym at the office? I would assume so.
Not at the office, at my condo.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is very nice.
Well, tell Grant he needs to put a gym in the office.
Yeah. Well, these newer offices, they have these gyms. You know, some of the older offices, it's like, where do you put them?
Right, of course.
It's
well,
tough.
It's part of like your 10X portfolio.
That's
I know
right.
has nice fitness, health facilities.
That's right.
In the apartment complex.
That's right.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
awesome.
some of our gyms at these apartments are you don't even need a gym membership anymore. It's crazy.
That's awesome. That's what it should be like.
And actually, I'm doing a new red light bet at one of our deals in Boca.
Oh,
where
really?
It's like I want to start bringing in more of the 10X.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, especially the clientele that wants it.
Yeah.
You know, they're all from New York.
Such a differentiator.
It can be.
It's on
for
brand.
Sure. It's on brand for sure. Yeah. But you know, I'm for sure a big believer in, you know, getting spooled up in you know, whether it's a cold, I do like cold plunges in the morning before I go to the office. Yeah. So either like when I work out in the morning, I'll do, you know, 20 to 30 minutes. That's it. I'll do some cardio. I'll do some light weights. Yeah. I'll do the cold plunge. I'll usually take my vitamins and do all that stuff in the morning. And then I go to the office. And the cool thing about the office is that we have 150 people in the office because it's different companies.
That's in Aventura, right?
Aventura, yep. And we do a morning meeting where everybody talks about their wins from the previous day. So we do that for 15, 20 minutes.
Is it compartmentalized by each team? Or is it not the whole company?
Well, so in the office there's 150 people. Yeah. In Cardone Capital there's 30. Right. But we all come together as a big company.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
So everybody's in that meeting. So
everybody's in that meeting, you know, for the Aventura office, right? And we go around, like the marketing team does that, the Cardone Capital, we do that, you know, the events team, they do that. And it's cool because then what happens is we then go to a Cardone Capital meeting, which is, you know, the 30 minutes. And we talk about, okay, what was our wins from yesterday and then what's coming in? Because obviously we were raising capital for new deals, right? Yeah. And so that's all set up. But then I really go in, I focus on a key couple of things, you know, for the business, which is, okay, new deals, current deals, and then the relationship piece of it. And, you know, I'm in the office. I am in the office every day from, you know, call it, you know, 8 till 6 or 7, sometimes 8 at night. And I go home and I eat, you know, I typically fast the majority of the day. Yeah. I'll start eating around, you know, 2 or 3 o'clock. Okay. I'm going to actually do a 3-day water fast next week. Nice. Yep. I haven't done much of those, but, you know, Gary and all those guys have been highly, have you tried it?
I have not.
Yeah. We should do it. We should do it. Yeah.
I would love to. Yeah.
Definitely. They actually say, and again, I'm not a health expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I heard this thing the other day where it's like when you start doing 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 day water fast, the
it's like
percentage
cell rejuvenation. Right?
They say one of the guys is saying that 75% chance less likely to get diseases and cancer if you're doing 7-day water fast, and I'm like. And the reasoning behind it, he's saying is that it kills the cells that would actually produce the diseases. Yeah, it kills it because your body rids. It has enough time. It's not digesting food. It rids it. So I'm a big believer. But I don't love eating like 3 and 4 and 5 times a day because I feel my energy. Yeah. And I'm going right. Like I'm bouncing from meeting to meeting to meeting. And you know I've got a current portfolio. I'm working on distributions this month for the investors, and so there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, but that's typically my routine. And then on the weekends. I've actually been scaling that back. I had a couple shots of espresso, but I'm trying to move away from heavy caffeine. Yeah, me too. In more natural, because I'm actually feeling better when I get nighttime. Later in the day, I'm actually sleeping better.
Yeah, of course.
I'm in that is really important. Yeah, is what I'm finding out.
I feel like it's everything. Yeah,
it's everything because you wake up, you're feeling great. Yeah, but I am into health and fitness and
Yeah.
IVs and blood work, and I like to measure a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I've always been into that.
I want to get that test done.
You should.
I'll
send you the link.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 10xl.com or whatever.
Love that.
It's I'll send you the link.
Yeah. That'd be dope.
But it's cool because it gives you actually the foods that you should be eating, and it gives you like the supplements that you should be taking.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it where like once I actually started reading the book,
solutions.
Yeah, it's not. You're great. But you and me should not be taking the same things.
Definitely not.
Because your body processes things the same things. Our diet should be different too.
Everything should be different. I mean, I went to the hospital 2 weeks ago with stomach pain. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah,
I was in a podcast, literally.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I thought it was my appendix.
Yeah. And
it turned out I have diverticulitis.
What is that?
It's like pockets in your intestines that essentially flare up. But I had it. I didn't realize I had that happen for the first time 15 years ago.
Yep.
Never had an issue since. But it was very much the same thing that happened to me this time. And so everybody being connected in the wellness space and the medical space, everybody's giving me like, take this, change this, do this.
Right.
And which is great, but it's like, how do you know what I really need? You know, and everyone's like low fiber while you're in, dealing with that, obviously low fiber, remove dairy, remove gluten, like so on and so forth. But, everybody's makeup is different. So I need that because, I don't take anything really. I take creatine. That's all I take.
Yeah. And creatine actually for the cost associated with creatine, because I take creatine as well. Yeah. Not really for the bulkness, but also they're actually saying that there's some good studies on mental clarity and know, it's good for the brain. But we used to take creatine. A lot of these have evolved. I'm impressed by the companies and the whatever R&D there is. But there's a lot of companies like the keto, the ketones.
Sure,
I've tried that. That feels good.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. It's funny because somebody asked me when this happened in my stomach, like, do you take ketones? I said no, and they're like, good. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Okay.
But I've taken the ketones.
Yeah,
and
which is like a fuel.
I feel different. Yeah, for sure. I have a couple homies that like are snapping those things back like multiple times a day.
Yeah, well, nootropics is interesting too, right?
It is. Yeah, I've never really gotten into nootropics.
Yeah. But there's different levels of those too.
There's levels to this game
because there really is. I had this nootropic that my buddy gave me, and
I started hallucinating.
No. I've never actually tried like the microdosing or nothing like that. I'm afraid I've never done really any drugs besides like smoking weed and all that stuff when I was really young. But I'm terrified of that stuff. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it's I'm more of like the pure path.
Totally.
But this nootropic, which was, it's like a, they call it the brain food, right? One of them that I took, it was, I forget the name of it, but I couldn't sleep that night.
Oh.
And I was like, this is great when you're up,
right? But
if I can't sleep, it does me no good because now I'm not recovering.
It defeats the purpose.
It defeats the purpose.
The next day you're, not operating.
But like True Brain and all this other stuff, which I have no connection to. I've tried some of those things, and I believe in some of that stuff. You know, where it's like some brain food, and as long as it doesn't give me the jitters or whatever it is. Like there's this gum that I was chewing on. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it has a little bit of caffeine, has some nootropics in there, and it's just
I hate jitters. Like I can't. That's why caffeine's like the only thing that because I know how to regulate it. I know exactly.
When you're having too much. And,
and it has an adverse effect on me. I'm unclear when I have too much caffeine in my system. I'm just like, I'm not as focused as I like to be.
Yeah, and because it starts to do the opposite effect.
Totally.
That's what I've noticed too.
Yeah.
Like the last 2 months, I've actually cut back way back.
Yeah.
On caffeine.
Yeah,
so, I mean, I used to be able to do 3 and 4 and 5 and 600 milligrams a day.
Yeah. That'll get you going.
It'll get you going.
Yeah. But removing it, I think, is, I try to remove most things. I think I don't want to implement much more, but I think what you're talking about, like a customized solution of things that I'm deficient in,
right?
That's next level.
Yeah, it is. And they send it to you prepackaged too.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now we're working with a lot of folks that are creating, anti-aging, longevity stuff. That's huge business right now.
Huge. Red light therapy.
Yeah. Red light's apparently really great for you.
It's great for you. Yeah. It's good for hair growth, cell reproduction. We have a red light bed in the office.
They're expensive.
Yeah, they're especially the beds, right? So like, remember the old sun tanning beds?
Yeah,
they look like that, but obviously they're the LEDs.
Yeah,
and they're $100 K plus.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. We have them in different locations. We're actually going to open a location in Aventura, and I'm putting one of those beds in one of our apartment complexes in Boca, which is awesome. Cool. But I'm a big believer in that stuff too. So I've been taking this methylene blue. I've
heard about that.
Yeah. So they say it works really good when you take it for the cell reproduction, but also the red light. So it's a good combination for that. And I've actually been getting more energy from these natural things because it's definitely not caffeine.
Is methylene blue natural?
Yeah, methylene blue is natural, and like all these materials are natural that you can take.
Yeah.
And again, I do believe a lot of these, whether you call them biohackers or, the Gary Breckas and all that stuff. Cause they're tapped in and they like know the back of it, like the research behind it. I don't.
Right.
But if I take it and I feel good, I keep taking it.
It's crazy though. Cause like Gary's background, not being a doctor and being in the life insurance space is so fascinating because it makes so much sense. They're betting on when you're going to die. There's like
they make money. They make money
it's
on
like it's essentially the line in sports gambling,
right?
Like how they're that close, right? Like your life expectancy. That's a crazy concept.
Well, and
do you want to know your life expectancy right now? Would you like to know that you have X number of years left?
Yeah. Make
the best of it.
Yeah. I don't love surprises. I actually, like the guy that actually the day walking me through the book, he's like, "Do you want to know if you're predisposed to this thing or whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah, tell me." Like just because I want to know. Like, is there things that I can do to whether it's avoid it or not get it? Or
is that from the test?
Yeah, that was from the test.
It'll tell you.
Yeah, it will tell you different things, Alzheimer's or whatever it is. Like there's different things that it can kind of see based on your genetic breaks and your genetic stuff. And again, this is coming from a pilot and a real estate guy. I consult with them because you asked me, do I want to know? The answer is hell yes. And then I ask them always the question is like, what do I need to do? What do I need to eat? What do I need to drink to become better?
Right.
And honestly, I truly believe like you can do the meditation, you could do the cold plunges, you could do the no drinking, no smoking. That will really, really help you with like clear communication. But once you get around the right team that has all these other operating companies, it really helps you in life because like for me in my position, having all these moving pieces, it all builds on each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it all builds on to be your greater self. It's not just one thing. It's multiple things.
I've very much found that in business, I cannot outpace my health and fitness level.
Yes.
Like it holds you back.
Right.
To a certain point in business because there's no way that if I don't have the focus, the clarity, the energy, the mindset to crush every single day, regardless of how many times I'm getting punched in the fucking face.
Right.
Like there's levels to it, right? And I think that cold has really helped me
too.
With neutrality, right? I don't have high highs and low lows. Mm-hmm. I stay in the pocket all day, regardless of what's thrown at me and what's going on. We could be sitting here. You could have walked in here with terrible news on a deal blowing up.
Yep.
And you and I walk in, the cameras go on, the mics are on, and boom, you got to block that shit out and you're going.
That's right.
Not everyone could do that.
No.
And I think social media, believe it or not, for me was really an amazing accountability tool because you asked me about, how I look at or journaling, am I writing stuff down? I would look back at myself and be like, I'm not proud of that person. When you see yourself.
Is it communication? Is it weight?
All of the things. No, weight for sure. Looking back at videos and being hungover, like knowing that I was hungover,
right.
I'm like, it was very eye opening for me. It changed. I mean, it has enhanced every area of my life so much. And by making the changes along the way, the people that I once admired, and kind of wanted to get around, the paradigm shifted from that to automatically being in the rooms with them and it not being a big deal at all, whether I talk to them or not, it's really strange.
It's very strange.
It's like, I think that's kind of going from good to great.
Yeah. And not caring about what because, a lot of people are like, do you drink? And I'm like, I drink water.
Yeah.
I drink all sorts of shit. Like I drink electrolytes.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
like
Electrolytes.
I drink a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that Grant, had because it's like, oh, I'm not drinking. No, I don't go to a meetup or whatever and say I'm not drinking. Yeah, I'm drinking. Let me have sparkling water, or let me have this.
Yeah.
Like, there's ways around the cultural. It's not really embarrassment, but it's there is some awkwardness. Like I dealt with it when I was not drinking. When I was transitioning, right, from not drinking to being around people who drink, because the real estate world. I mean, there's people who they drink, and they go out, and it's very common. But I was like, man, you know what? When I looked at my test, and this confirmed it too. Number one, dairy wasn't great for me. Yeah. Number two, alcohol and caffeine, I just don't digest them. My body doesn't digest that as well as some other people. Like, some people can go and drink and they're feeling great the next morning. Yeah, Will it catch up to them? Yeah. But for me, like, my body is so sensitive.
It says that in the test?
Yeah, it says it in the test.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like it tells you the things that you should avoid. And it's like, man, I've known this for so long.
It makes sense.
It makes sense now. Because, you have to understand, like, your body is a living, breathing organism, and, like, you feel things, but you're like, no, I think it's going to go away.
Yeah.
But when you actually get the results, I don't do dairy. Yeah. I do very little dairy. Yeah. And my skin feels better. My gut feels better. The gut is so important, like probiotics. Like, I do probiotics in the morning. Yeah. And that, like, I've been doing, like, I was here, I did acupuncture.
How was that?
Well, that's the first thing they asked you. How's your gut? Yeah. How's your movement? How's this? How's that? Because when I was
did it here?
I did it here. I do acupuncture all over the place. But I love it because I'm really into the different medicines and Chinese medicine and Western, like all that stuff. I'm a student, man. Yeah. I'm an absolute student. Yeah. But I'll tell you this: when I was as I come up in this game, the one thing that I've always looked at and I've always listened to and I've always paid attention, it doesn't matter how wealthy the person is, the most important thing that they always talk about is their health. And a lot of people give up their health to get wealth. Yeah. And their biggest regret is that they wish they were healthy and they would pay any amount. That's why do you think 10X Health is so successful? Because they're willing to do anything. They're willing to pay anything to get their health back, their joints back, their eyesight back, their hearing. You know what I mean? Like, of course. Like, and so
you don't have a quality of life.
If you don't have the quality of life, what's the dough?
Yeah, money can't buy everything.
I want both.
Yeah, of course.
I want both. Yeah, and I'm going to have both. Yeah. And we're going to continue to have both because it's like my first thing too. Also, I'll mention this is my first thing on all my goals is number one, when I write it down, I am super grateful for the current life that I have. But the first thing it is health, relationships, and then it's wealth in that order for a reason. Yeah. Well, without health, you don't really have anything. When I wasn't feeling well and I was in the hospital, I realized that really quick. You're like, what am I doing? Exactly. It's like, honestly, no matter how great everything else is, if your health is off, nothing else really matters. Where do we go from here, dude? In closing, what's on the horizon for you? What are you excited about? Well, look, I just hit 40 years old. Yeah, man. And I was telling you this initially. I'm very excited about the stack that I've put in place. Yeah. And so a lot of the same things that I've been doing and building up, which is the aviation piece. Obviously, I'm flying for fun now. Yeah. And in the real estate space, it's getting really, because I've been with Grant for 10 years and now the deals are really good. Yeah. And so we will grow and scale this company from 15,000 units to 25, 35. I mean, 10 years, the next 10 years will be great for me because it's like, I think 50s will probably be like real true prime. Yeah. But I actually think 40s is like fantastic run for me because of all the stacking that I've been doing. Yeah. Compound growth. Yeah, the compound growth. You'll see the benefit of everything you've been doing for so long. Because it's a grind. The most in this decade. Because it's a grind, and I'm not afraid of a grind. No. But the relationships have gotten better. I just left a really, really big meeting. Yeah. And 10 years ago, would that meeting have happened? The answer is no. Yeah. What we've built, and I give a lot of my credit and success to Grant Cardone for sure. Like, he has tapped on my shoulder for the last 10 years, not really wavering on, not trying to be nice to me, not trying to be my friend, not trying to be my mentor, not trying to be a figure, like, because he's a lot of things to me, right? But I truly think that these next 10 years, it's going to be a great run for me because I'm still surrounded by And I've elevated my game, and Grant's elevating his game, and Elaine is elevating her game, and you're elevating your game, and everybody's elevating to where it's like, I'm going to help you. You're going to help me. We're all going to help each other. And, I'm very optimistic about, even though this marketplace right now is very wobbly at the skates at best, because of where interest rates have gone, but it's going to be a huge opportunity, because if you look at the glass, is it half full, half empty? It's half full, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities to use the skills that I have, to take advantage of them.
Yeah. Well, you deserve nothing more than tremendous success.
I receive it, man. I receive it. I receive it, and I believe it too. I believe it.
Well, you have to.
I do.
When you're putting in the work for as long as you have, and not taking shortcuts, you truly do deserve it.
Yeah. Let me mention one thing too. Please. So 38 Letters from John D. Rockefeller to his son is an amazing book. Obviously, the 10X Rule, Grant Cardone, it's fantastic. I read that probably 4 or 5 times. But I'm reading this book right now. It's by John D. Rockefeller. And this is random, but I actually realized that we were born on the same day. Did I tell you this?
No.
Yeah, so he was one of the first billionaires in U.S. history, right? And built Standard Oil, phenomenal company. I mean, just one of the biggest. But I found this book from Jared Glant, the president of the other company. He's been tremendous too, because we've always been not close in the sense of like we hang out, but close in the sense of like I want to see him when he wants to see me when we're the same age. Yeah. And we've been underneath Grant. He's been operating this business, and I've been operating this business. But he had this book, and I started reading it, and from letter 1, I was hooked. Because think about that, right? Mentorship comes in different forms and fashions.
Of course.
Finding the right book. It's not about reading all of the books.
Right.
It's about finding the right books that resonate with you, and going back to when he was writing these letters to his son. And I put myself in his son's shoes, and it's like, man, those lessons are so real even today. Today. Like, son, I know you dealt with losses. Son, I know you're dealing with this person. Son, I know you're dealing with this win. Son, I know you're dealing with my shadow. Son, I know you're dealing with all of the above. There's 38 letters.
Yeah.
And these are the books that continue to inspire me and elevate me to ask even better questions.
Yeah.
With already that's happening in the world around me.
I think that's how you get better answers, is by asking better questions, right?
And there's so much wisdom.
Yeah. But you have to ask the right questions to get it out of people.
For sure.
And you have to be willing to put yourself in the position to get an opportunity, right? Yep. Like, I think back to your initial outreach to Grant. Like, think about that. Most people would never do it.
They would never. What
did you have to lose though? Really?
So I went back to that. So Tim Ferriss was a guy that I've always loved. Tim Ferriss, and he has an exercise where it's like, if you write down what you'll gain and what you're going to lose. Actually, what would happen is I could actually gone back to the airlines and worked for the airlines, or I could have gone back, right? Of
course.
So the sum is you go and take the risk because you have nothing to lose.
Correct.
And if I didn't work out, I did a great job. I never called in sick one day for 10 years. They would have hired me back in an instant.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
Versus being terrified and listening to my coworkers and my mother and because they love you, right? Like my mom.
Yeah, they don't want to see you get hurt.
She doesn't want it. She's like, oh,
she wants to protect you.
Yeah, she's like, you're doing great.
Right.
Well, I was like, Mom.
And they don't like change.
Well, and they don't. But my mom, I'm a mama's boy for sure.
Yeah.
And she's always been a big supporter, and she's always put her money where her mouth is. Like my first loan, I talked to her into giving me a $140,000 loan.
Yeah.
She's the only person that would sign.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But the come up is real.
It is.
And it's a lot of fun. But if I wouldn't have made that decision 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't know you, man.
No, you definitely wouldn't.
God, man.
That's what's crazy.
It's
right?
crazy.
It's the ripple effect of all the decisions that we make.
Yep.
And bet on ourselves. I think we could end it right there.
Let's do it.
I just want to have peace. Pay for the bill, let them take my card, never see the receipt. Good health, we prize, but everybody around prosperity. I just want to have peace.